We need a... Ooh. Please no. No! Well, this is going to be exciting. I've been wanting to review this game for a while now, having been in the alpha test, but have struggled with coming up with points to talk about even after over 100 hours of playtime. There is just so much to talk about with this game. The visuals are top tier, the building feels like the developers made their own system from the ground up, and moving around the world feels freeing. And I think I finally figured out why I'm having such a hard time thinking of how to describe Voyagers of Nera. The game is not one you are meant to rush through. The first thing that needs to be talked about for this game is the visuals. It is simply gorgeous and one of the high points for the game. You wake up in the starting chamber, open the door, and you are almost immediately greeted to the beautiful world around you. Even trying to play this game as linearly as possible, I still found myself stopping for a moment to enjoy the scenery. Sunrise and sunset provide some of the most beautiful moments I've ever seen in any video game. That paired with the ability once you get the water spirit is something truly special. The second area doesn't feel quite as special, but is due to the larger monuments not being visible from your probable landing place, like with where you start in the Embrace. As soon as you start to explore, some of the landmarks in the second area are impressive with just how many you are meant to explore inside. Coral jutting out of the water is definitely a sight to see once you leave the starting area. And oh my goodness, once you get the wind spirit, you turn into a freaking eagle when gliding. One of the coolest aspects for this game. The third area is definitely the least impressive of the three. When going between areas, the deep is incredibly muted in colors, but it works. It's meant to be creepy and ominous and hard to tell details. The third area is not meant to be as muted in colors. The Embrace has good contrast with the trees, beaches, and giant stone statues. The reef has its change of pace with the reds of the coral. The Great Wood has different shades of green that don't really separate themselves well. There are large stone monuments, but they are so hidden by the surrounding trees that they don't feel as special. The humongous trees could give that same feel, but the shading is too similar to the greens to really make them feel special. The new trees do help with their glow when present for the visuals, but the moments they do are far in view with how uncommon the trees can feel at times. I did not explore building in this area, which could help a lot as well. The building lets you create some of your own beautiful sights. And where can you get some of the most beautiful visuals in this game? While sailing on the open seas, of course. Sailing in this game is different, like other aspects in this game. But once you get used to it, you can't imagine it working any other way. The ships are built around two people, with one to control the speed and another to steer. It can be intimidating at times to drive the ships by yourself, but feels good. Shortly after the first ship, you also get the skimmer, the self-propelled surfboard amazingness. Swimming is truly rough without it. However, if you can time your jumps well enough, you can skip across the water faster than using the skimmer. Traversing on land feels decent too. Sprint can feel a bit slow, with spamming dodge being the fastest way to move around on land, but it doesn't feel too punishing. Gliding just feels great. When you first deploy your glider, you get an extra little bit of height, which just helps find all sorts of cheese spots and gets you that extra little edge. The only real negatives is with trying to find the right path to get to a certain position, only to realize you need to take the long walk all the way around to the other side of the island. There are quite a few times in the third area where this was a regular occurrence. Not enough to make me want to stop a play session, but every time after I had forgotten this aspect, I would run into it again shortly after. Usually this led to finding resources that I needed anyways though. When this wasn't the case, it was my first frustrating moment with the game. Although, looking back now, I forgot about the build anywhere aspect, which would also have resolved this issue. Moving between areas is the deep, which is one of the coolest parts of the game. It has always been haunting, but with the early access release, this area was really knocked out of the park. I truly felt nervous with the sky darkening, checking the map hoping there was something to protect me beyond the repair kits, and that first attack with this area is a moment I will always remember. The first appearance of the eel being an intimidating bite was just perfect. I love this whole area. For the first two areas, combat feels solid. For the Embrace, it can at times feel a little too easy, but when you take the time to grind for the best gear for your level, it makes sense. The game does an excellent job introducing you to the mechanics of how to fight. This is always one of my greatest criticisms for a game, either taking way too long or often forgetting to give critical information. Voyagers of Nera does it right. Each weapon's strength and weaknesses become apparent very quickly, and the Embrace gives you the space to experiment on your own. The parry isn't fully explained, but the area allows you to learn on your own with confidence, which I appreciate. The second area is a clear step up, with the addition of bleed effects, which can be extremely punishing when you misplay against it. The bleed attacks never felt unfair in this area though. Just another way to add to difficulty to enemies without a simple health sponge. This area also often offered a larger variety of enemies to deal with, and the clear addition of them getting stronger at night. This is the best area for when it comes to combat, although it does lose some of its grandiose glamour scenery that the Embrace had. The final area for this build of the game is tough. Food enemies you can now aggro by being near the spider's flow, along with both poison and bleed mechanics, makes this area very challenging. For the most part, it wasn't too bad if you played smart. Some of the enemies stayed aggro for a very long time. There was a particular part where I went in for a resource, then walked to a different island, and there was just enough ground for one enemy to follow me the entire way. I was not able to separate enough for him to disengage, and ended up having to fight to get free. This wasn't a negative per se, just something I noticed. This did, however, feed into the Boar Den Spirit fight. This fight is rough. Easily the hardest fight in the game. The encounter is random with what can spawn, plus there are two nearby fights that can be aggroed to the spot when you try to free the spirit. My second attempt, I wound up with two shamans and a few spiders as the first spawn. The two nearby spiders then immediately came in along with the grunts. Poor lighting right here made it a struggle. This, along with the better gear being one of the final grind points, made it hard to feel like I could be geared enough for this fight. This is the point where the multiplayer versus the single player experience naturally begins to separate. For the Embrace and the Reef, progress feels good. Gear feels to be on pace with your progress through the game, and building resources don't feel too scarce to construct your dream creation. In the Embrace, you never feel underleveled, your weapons are easy to maintain, and the skills you gain as you progress through the area help cover any deficiencies your weapons might have. Moving into the Reef, things start to get a bit more challenging, but nothing unmanageable. The new trees are plentiful to match the need for the new plank resource. It takes time to craft the planks, and I appreciate the game trying to slow you down. The game encourages you to take your time with exploring and building. The new ore for the area can be a pain to find, but doesn't feel rare, and your gear without it is okay, along with your abilities helping carry you through the area. The fact that the previous area's main ore is easy to find in the next area helps significantly with catching up to the latest gear if you weren't able to get everything. Carry me Sharpstone Blade. The Great Wood is where the grind really starts to laugh in your face. Both the new ore and tree and fish take genuine effort to find. It wasn't me finding what I needed as I explored the area. I regularly had to go out purely to find what I needed multiple times. And that damned bark fin plates. I did not find the fish they came from anywhere, and for a short time thought they came from the eel. This is a hostile fish that is only present from what I found at the far end of the map in areas where tree roots clearly grew into the ocean. I barely found enough for my armor once I did finally find the thing. This constantly needing to find the rare resources as a new form of slowing you down for the area does not feel as good. The reef resources are placed where they feel they make sense. The Greatwood feels like the trees are placed in fight locations and rarely have multiple trees together, unlike the reef. The new ore is hidden and you can't convince me otherwise. There were 2 nodes near my base and I'm glad they respawned, but I was mentally preparing myself to have to go out exploring just for that as well. I definitely tried to rush this area, but man, some of these resources were rough. My gear was underperforming from how hard it was to find adequate ore since everything had to be melted into ingots and those stupid fish hiding away. This was the single player experience for the Greatwood though. With multiplayer, which I will be trying soon, I can definitely imagine this grind feeling significantly less burdensome. When I played with friends before, the Embrace felt perfectly paced and I can easily see the Reef feeling the same way. Building is single-handedly the best aspect of this entire game. The grid system feels well thought out with how it works. The grid is easily visible so you know exactly where you're placing something to help with getting the exact spot you want relative to the wall, floor, ceiling, or whatever you're placing an item on. Placing objects in the world feels natural. The place, destroy, move options while in the build mode all feel excellent. Once I place something, if I decide it needs to be a little more over, I can simply use the move tool. I do wish I could move placed blueprints, but it is a minor complaint. I also wish that moving a bedroll also moved my spawn point to the new location. If I decide I didn't like the specific structure I selected, or wanted to change just a different material one, destroying them didn't cost resources, which I loved. And if you really wanted to achieve that lived-in feel for your home or create bustling towns, the free place mode is there. The grid gives you rough placement and rotation, enough to satisfy most people, but holding the free place button gives you full control over the placement and significantly more options for rotation. I never felt like I was hindered by the game with my creations. Placing buildings and then adjusting the height before confirming the build was also excellent. The system as a whole just flows flawlessly with you as you build. Placing lights and decorations also feels great with the freedom of just where you can build everything. And holy crap, the variety really drives home just how much of a building game this is. Being able to place multiple vases on the shelf above my cooking station along with a plush on my station to encourage me was just perfect. The no restrictions building approach this game takes is a breath of fresh air. You really can build anywhere, not just within the safety of the Spirit Anchor, and are just able to make some of the most elaborate structures and sites you can imagine. The entire time I've played this game, I have thought of it as less punishing, more fun Valheim, with the best building system I've ever seen in a survival crafting game. If I were to guess what the developers' top 3 must-get-right aspects are for this game, I would say they are building, visuals, and movement in that order. Playing this game is worth it just to experience the building. It is just so well done, it is wild. Good building mechanics feed into good visuals. With some of the most gorgeous scenery I've ever witnessed in a game, the amazing building system only encourages you to further enhance the scenery, to make the stunning visuals your own creation. From sunset to the glow of night, this game is just top tier. And being able to traverse your creations is the most important part, making the world of Nera truly feel lived in by the player. This game is a home run for these 3 aspects. This is not a game I would recommend rushing through. The story can feel a bit simple at times, but still catches your attention, feeding into your desire to explore. Playing through quickly really makes the grind apparent and not as enjoyable in the later areas, which most likely is addressed by solo versus multiplayer experience differences. If you try to rush through, you are going to miss the experience that is this game. I give Voyagers of Nera 8 sailing into the sunsets out of 10.